Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blue Abroad Nation. Riley, how you going, mate? Welcome back to the show. How you going today?
Good, mate. Good to be back. This club is a roller coaster, isn't it? It seems like every single week when we come on, there's a different thought process going in and another challenge. But that's football. Every week's a new hope, and hope springs eternal. So looking forward to the show and looking forward to a big game tomorrow.
Yeah, it is. And mate, it's last week. You know, it's just so frustrating. Like to go down by 16 points against a side who just lost their first game for the year against Richmond, who played very well. And Richmond, we know what they're all about. It almost felt like I wish they'd have gone on with it a bit more and smashed us and exposed us. Like the 16-point loss was such a bad lay down in that last quarter, in the last 40 minutes really of the game. You know, I don't think it did plaster over the cracks. I think people were genuinely pretty upset and not accepting of the loss. So that's a good thing. And it does show that, you know, we basically smashed them for three quarters. Our pressure, in that second quarter, I felt our foot skills were sublime. There were so many good things going on there. Confidence was up when they weren't tired. And then when the tide started turning and they got a bit flat, it really went downhill quick for them. Do you think that's more psychological or physical? Where do you think it sort of fell down once it turned?
For me, it's psychological. I don't necessarily think it was physical. I mean, we're outsiders, so you know we don't have access to the GPS numbers and that sort of thing offhand. You can look on the AFL app, but from my perspective, it's a repeat pattern of what we have seen so many times, and I think it actually sort of goes into a little bit of a bigger issue of trust of the whole 22 and the club, and it's just you see during the week with Jacob Wiedering, and it was a really good interview on SEN with Jared Waitley, but you've got, you know, the midfield acknowledging they didn't help out the defence. Then you see vision of the defence, you know, not trusting each other and just getting out of position. It's just there's a lot of things right now, and it's not just with the players, and there's a lot of issues for me personally in terms of trust as a fan of the club right now. How we perform on field. Off-field stories, which, you know, we'll go into later in terms of the Cripps injury or not injury, but it's just it's something that I just think psychologically you can keep saying you're close, but at some stage you've got to break through. And at some stage, you know, you have to acknowledge last week enough is enough. It wasn't good enough. If we lost like that, but we, you know, seemingly, you know, we're in the contest, we genuinely competed hard for four quarters, you're like, okay. But the last 40 minutes was horrendous. It was horrendous. Yeah. It really was.
And the repeated cliches from the Bolton days, even from the Malthouse days, about just learning how to win. You know, that's just been going on too long, and there's been too many changes of head coaches, changes of playing personnel. You know we turned over 60 players from the time that Bolts and Silvani really cracked in and decided that's what we had to do. So we can't accept that anymore. We're Carlton. We're not going to accept that anymore. It's frustrating. Like we've got to learn how to win, and we've got to start winning. And it's true. You've got to get that winning culture, and we've got to learn how to then put the foot on the throat and start beating sides by 20 to 30 points. I don't want close wins or honourable losses or 16-point losses or 20-point losses against the reigning premiers. I want I want a Munna side. I want a Munter side by 30 points. It's why aren't we there yet? But anyway, we don't know, do we? That's we all have our theories, and we can be as analytical as we like about it. But it just is what it is at the moment. I've got a couple of guests lining up. I'll bring one in to start with. It's our mate from Thailand, sticking in with the Blue Abroad Nation theory, going out there to a different country. So we'll bring him in. Welcome, Joe. How you going this morning, mate?
Sawadee Cup. That's hello and welcome in Thai.
Can you say that again? I thought you were swearing at me. What was that, mate?
Sawadee Cup.
Sawadee Cup. Well, you probably shouldn't put lemon in it then, mate. Anyway.
No. We had enough lemons last week, I think.
Oh, my God. We certainly had a few lemons in that last quarter. What was your take on it, Joe? How do you feel about it all?
Could you hear me yelling at the screen from Bangkok? Oh, so frustrating. So frustrating. I mean, even watching, St Kilda last night, how can you kick 9 points and miss from in front? They're league footballers, for God's sake. I mean, even I can kick some of those goals. But again, I don't want to harp. It comes back to we just rely too heavily on too few players. No one's prepared to stand up. I'm not in Melbourne, right? So I download the Herald Sun and I try and read the Blue Abroad on Facebook and that. 1 minute Patrick Cripps is injured, then he's not injured. 2 weeks ago he was best on ground. And the problem, and we've had this for a while, is that we've only had one or two good players, and if they don't perform, the rest of them sort of just stand around with their hands on their chin thinking, gee, I wonder when he's gonna stand up, and then I'll follow. Right? There's just no one that's prepared. Other than, I think Jacob Wiedering, last year and this year is starting to show a bit of leadership.
Yeah.
But it's just so heavily reliant on Patrick Cripps. I mean, we've paid all this money for Zach Williams. I think I would have got more possessions than Zach Williams last week. He looks so unfit. It just looks overweight.
He doesn't. He does. It's funny. He's I feel my feeling towards Zach Williams at the moment is a little bit like how I feel about Mitch McGovern's first year at the club. I feel like he got a big contract and was probably rubbing his hands together, thinking, geez, only Carlton has paid me that. How lucky am I? Hit the burgers and came to pre-season not fit. And when you come to pre-season not fit and having to train at that intensity, you always get those below the back, lower soft tissue injuries. And he's starting to get those little soft tissue injuries. And then when he's on the park, he's not looking fit. And then the club have to pay him because he's a marquee player. And it's just crap. Like, it's not good enough, and he needs to improve.
But we've got a habit of doing that. I mean, John, you're probably my vintage. Someone plays a good game against Carlton. Next thing you know, we're out recruiting them. Like, example, Frank Marcazzani. We paid top dollar to get him from Fitzroy. I think he played one good game in 10 years for us or something. But I don't understand these guys. I mean, I would have thought, the money's great. And to do... to play a game and get paid for it, that's something that probably the three of us would do for nothing. I'd love to go out there and play football every week. And these blokes, I'm not saying they don't try. Please don't get me wrong, right? Yeah. I mean, if you don't try, that's when you start to get hurt. I mean, you guys have played football. If you don't put in, that's when you get hurt. But it's just Levi Casbolt, he's walking around like I don't know if he's counting daisy chains out there, or like he's a big guy. Go through the pack, for God's sake. There's that saying.
Sorry, Joe. Yeah, finish that bit about Levi.
No, I just said he looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane this year. I mean, it's just
Yeah,
I just don't get it.
No, it's a bit like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think this is, if he's selected again this week, he's got to play well. He's got to. He's otherwise. Sorry, it's TDK time. Pitto needs help. Maybe he'll improve his tap work if he's not so tired. He's been carrying the load. Hey, look, Joe, give us a prediction for Sunday though, mate. How do you think we can turn it around? And
do you want me to
can we beat the Demons?
Okay, so if I'm going to be a realist, I'd say, unfortunately, we're going to have a narrow loss, which I hate. I just heard you saying that. But if we can play the way that we played in the first 2.5 quarters, kick straight. So this is the problem. Carlton don't put scoreboard pressure on a team. We dominate games and kick points. And then the other team rush it down the other end, get a goal, and you can see the desperation in the guys. We've done all that for nothing. So if we can kick straight, get our selections right, I don't see why we can't beat Melbourne. I don't see why we can't beat anybody on our day. I'm not saying that we're a top 4 team and that we can do it consistently. We've got to have the moons and the suns all aligned, and we'll beat anybody. But the trouble is, we just can't get them all aligned. I don't know if it's the coach, the players, but I don't know.
So narrow loss. You're saying?
It's either a narrow loss or a narrow win. But I'm being a palm tree. I'm being a palm tree. My heart says Blues, but my head's saying Melbourne are playing really well. Although they're due for a loss, but who knows? You don't know the psyche that's in there. You know, football's momentum and confidence, which we don't have, and they have.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does that count for something? I guess it does. I mean, I read it during the week. We just don't have a culture of winning. And if we could string 2 or 3 games, like if we'd have beaten, like Essendon, who had no one put anything on, and then beaten the Dogs, you'd have found a totally different team this week. That'd have been like chock full of confidence, cherry ripe. But wouldn't mind a cherry ripe.
I think their confidence will still be there. I think hopefully the coaching department have done the right thing there and looked after that, and the club with whatever the resources they have, and make the players realise what they did very well and have to do very well again for 3 quarters, and then find that way to keep that going, and hopefully the coaching has the capacity to be able to do what they have to do to make sure they make the changes and think on their feet if things start turning. If the team that you're dominating starts getting their run because we're dropping off a little bit in cardio, then you have to make the changes. Look, anyway, Joe, awesome to have you on again. Thanks very much for your points.
No worries.
I'll hope everything's going well for you over there in Bangkok, my friend.
Still in lockdown. It's only getting worse. We're supposed to be coming out tomorrow, but yesterday we had 40 deaths from COVID. So I can't see the government letting us in. The worst place for the COVID here is in the jails, but they had 3,000 cases in a jail yesterday. So I don't know. Who knows? Anyway, you guys stay safe.
I saw a doco on one of those Thai jails, and
they're not
very,
nice.
Very crowded. They're very crowded, so it's not good.
I'll talk to you about that off air, John. I'll do some charity work there, and it's they're not nice places. The guards are not nice at all. Anyway, stay safe.
Right, sounds like a great chat for another time, man.
Hope we talk about a Blues victory next week.
Oh, yes, indeed. I look forward to it. All right, mate. Well, have a great day over there. Enjoy watching the game tomorrow.
Take care.
Now, Riley, we've got Ali. I'm about to bring him in, so I'll let you go hell for leather there. Ali, good morning. How you going, my friend?
Can't hear you, mate.
We can't hear you at all, Ali. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go. He's on. He's on.
How you going, guys?
Oh,
how are we doing?
We're going okay, but I will say this club is horrible for your mental health.
Oh,
It is just
rusty blue bag all my life, mate. Third generation, mate. I hear you, Riley. Hear you guys. I hear you, mate. But like last week in the game, mate, to be honest, were we expecting to win? Honestly, I was expecting 20-plus point loss, to be honest. Just that one lousy quarter, mate. One lousy quarter. And just the way the media just turns on Carlton whenever we have a bad game. Like, I'm just waiting for the St Kilda game from last night. I want to see the media give it to their awkward kicking. Like, when we kick awkwardly, mate, we have the whole world against us, mate. It just... And especially our own supporters. That's the worst part of it all, mate. You know, you could win and be great, like especially against our great rivals like Essendon. Yeah. And we still got hammered. Oh, SPS didn't do this. Well, he didn't do this and he didn't do that. Well, it's a team game. Like, if one's having a bad game, and the other one pulls them over the line, it's a team win. And we had a team loss, fair enough, but just the way everyone just turns on us, it's crazy, mate, guys. It's just crazy. I don't know what more to say. Like tomorrow.
Other clubs out there have been doing it a lot worse than us over the decades. I know
look at Melbourne.
Premiership since
look at Melbourne for the last 12 years.
Melbourne, North Melbourne, St Kilda. And we don't want to put ourselves in that basket either. We don't,
But unfortunately, we are, mate.
Unfortunately, accept that.
But the thing is, unfortunately, we are though. We're in that basket. Like what we need is that our supporters. Like I hear Riley's rants all the time, mate, and brilliant. I love it. I love the passion in him. But just some out there. Oh, we've got to get rid of Tigi after last week's loss. We've got to get rid of this. We've got to. Yes, I understand, but we're still on the rise. And I saw Melbourne growing up, like my children are all in their young teens. Oh, Dad, look how good Dees is finally. These are my kids that my oldest one's nearly 15 and he's never seen Melbourne play finals. He's never seen it, and he's saying, oh, they're doing great now, Dad. It takes time. And I've been telling my kids for a lifetime, we're coming, son. We're coming. But we're still coming. We're just not there yet, mate. You can see it. Like, if we could play that against Melbourne like last year we did, and we only lost by a couple of points, if it wasn't for that boundary hit by, I think it was McGovern in the last minute, we would have snuck that game home last year. But the confidence we will take from last week into this week, I can see Melbourne losing by a couple of points to us. I can just see it. But it's a team effort. It's not just that Patrick Cripps has got to carry the whole side again. Sammy Walsh has got to get another 60 disposals. It's just a team effort. I don't know what to say, but every week I go in confident for my club. I always will. But just our supporters out there, mate, they're still hiding in the walls, guys. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, even when we were rebuilding, I was wearing my Carlton shirt with pride every day. I live here up on the Gold Coast, and I used to get laughed at. Oh, the Suns are better than you guys. In the back of my head, I'm saying, well, they might be, mate, but I'm a proud bagger, mate. What can I say? It comes down to that. Like, I always hear what you say, Riley. And you know what? 120%. You make so much sense, mate. You make so much sense, champ. And but yeah, it's just our supporters are just. Oh gosh, guys,
Ali,
come on,
Ali. That's why I poached him to come on the show, because I just speak shit. Right?
No, matey, brother, I love you from Perth. Having your quiet shots of, I love it, mate. I love it.
Come on, everyone knows it. It's okay. You can say it, mate. Look, but you're right. And guys, and like guys like Riley to me, and Terry and Dan, they're the guys I like listening to. The passion's there.
Absolutely.
The analytical side, the objectiveness. We're able to, I feel like we could make a great brains trust for the football department at the club. To be honest, some of the discussion is, it's, and we're in an industry that's very highly based on statistics, analytical stuff, and everything else. So, maybe we get a petition going. Riley, head of football department. I'll be head of the social. I'll just look after the social club. I'll be and the bar. the bar. Probably.
Oh,
the bar.
absolutely. I've got just one question to you guys. Who do you think we will let go at the season's end of the players? Who do you think won't be there next year?
It's a good question. What do you reckon, Riley?
Including the veterans as well. Like, even if the ones that are going to retire, who do you think, Riley and co, who do you think won't be there?
I don't think, and this is just off the top of my head, I don't think Levi Casbolt will be there at the end of the year. He's one that I don't see. I don't know if Lockie O'Brien will be there or if he'll look for a fresh start. If he can't crack into the ones, then I think it's probably time for a fresh start. He's been there 4 years. And, you know, I don't think it'll be a delist, but it might be a trade for a draft pick for Carlton. That's probably one I don't think will be there. I don't think that. I'm just thinking of players off contract. I don't know if Mark Murphy will go. I don't know if the likes of Caleb Marchbank will be there. I know he's contracted next year, but I think with his injury run, there might be the decision made to retire. I'm not trying to retire him, but it's just something I can think of. I don't know if even your veterans like Mark Murphy might not be there at the end of the year. I think he'll probably go around again, but it's a question. There's a few, and then there's your other sort of late draft picks that you think of, your Josh Hunnies of the world, your Matt Cottrells of the world, who aren't on the. I don't think Cottrell's on the senior list. So even though he's playing consistently in the ones, I think he'll get a contract. But there's a few, and then when you think it comes to trade time, mate. You have to think realistically. If they haven't signed yet, there's going to be a lot of clubs coming after Harry Mackay. I think he'll stay. He better stay. I'm just saying, if Harry Mackay stay, you will.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, mate.
I still think, I know the club came out and said last year that we felt we're pretty settled from a list perspective, but I can still see there has to be minimum movement at the end of the year, and I can still see a couple of players that are playing and the ones at the moment that will probably exit the organisation at the end of the year. Those are the ones that I think of off the top of my head are candidates.
I was hearing, Riley, that Ben McKay hasn't re-signed or extended with North Melbourne. Do you think that might be a ploy to get him to make Harry sign on that dotted line?
I don't know I don't think it'll be a ploy, but I do think as a club we are one key position, one key defender short.
That we are.
I think that we can't. Liam Jones is contracted next year. He'll be 31, and they're a good pairing, Weedery and Jones. But
absolutely,
Liam Jones in losses this year. And it's not all him, but you can see vision from on the couch last week. Does leak a lot of goals against his opponents in losses.
That was different to last year, Riley. What happened to I still rate Liam very highly. Don't get me wrong, mate. I really rate. But last year he was a cornerstone of our defence. If you know what, this year he's just a bit different. What's your take on it, guys? Like, he's just like a bit of a different defender this year.
Perfect person to answer that question has just popped into the stream.
Hey,
the Vince Luscious Locciosano driving with the Prince of Prince's Park.
G'day, boys. How you going?
Hey, bud. How you going,
mate? On the road again, I see. Where are you off to, Vincenzo?
I'm going to get into trouble for driving while I'm talking to you blokes on the show.
Where are you heading, mate?
We won't tell, mate.
Hang on a second, I'm getting directions. I'm on my way to doing an auction. I don't usually put the suit and tie on a Saturday unless I'm doing an auction.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good to see you multitasking, mate. I'm sure your wife's very proud.
I'm doing my best. I'm just doing my best.
All right, so Ali, you'll just redirect that question to Vince again, mate.
G'day, Vince, mate. How you going, champ?
G'day, buddy. How's things?
Very well, thank you, brother. Brother, my question was to the boys was, last year, Liam Jones was our cornerstone defense, like tough one-on-one player. Players would fear him, and they would fear him. But this year he's like in a bit of a, and I still love my Liam. Don't get me wrong. I rate him very highly in our defence, but this year he's just a bit lost. I was watching On the Couch last week, and Gary Lyons showed a few things of what he was doing just in lack of concentration. It's not the same play that he was last year. Is it because the game's evolving differently with this man on the mark rule, or how the game's more quicker, or what do you think it is, mate?
We've lost Vincent.
Oh. Well, you boys can answer it for me, mate. You boys can do it.
So, Vince, you're back there now, mate?
I'm back, mate. Are you got me?
Okay, so Ali was just asking what you think the issue...
Just give me 2 seconds. I'm going to pull over. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, here we go. He's getting serious. No.
Okay.
So, Ali just wanted to know what your take on Liam Jones at the moment is. He seems as though the forwards don't seem to fear him anymore. He's just a little bit out of position in games. What's your take on Liam Jones with what's going on with his performance week to week at the moment?
Look, my view is that even though you're right, he's had a few good games one-on-one. I actually think he gets more exposed one-on-one than anything else. I would have him as a Jake Lever type, a Jeremy McGovern type, where he intercept marks. I think that's where his strength is. He's shown even last week that he finds it difficult to stick on his man. A few times he got exposed against Josh Bruce, I think it was last week. I would rather play him as a third tall, and I think this is like my own personal view. If you want to get the best out of Levi Casbolt, do what they did a couple of years ago and stick him in defence. He was marking everything that came his way, and you might find he'll regain his confidence. So my personal view, and I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with this, is to actually play Wiedering at fullback, Casbolt at centre-half back, and have Liam Jones as a third tall intercept marking like the McGoverns and the Levers of the world.
Yeah.
It's not a bad plan. And look, just I think this relates really well to that comment here from Brendan Waller. Can we play? Brendan Weller. Can we play Williams on halfback flank? Regards, my TV, please. If he plays mid this week, I'll lose it. Him and Sard off halfback flank, yes, please. Now, a lot of people have been saying that. I've been saying it as well for a few weeks. So I think the Sard Williams on the flanks combination. Will give us more attacking rebound from both sides of the ground and create a lot of headaches. For coaches and assistant coaches. And then perhaps what you're suggesting there to solidify the wall and have that rebound marker that can perhaps feed it off to a Williams or a Sard as well. That might work. It's not the craziest. I mean, what's happening now is teams are getting multiple entries into our 50. Jacob Wiedering's doing everything he can to repel it. Jones has his good days and his bad days, but it's not
as an intercept marker. Plowman's not doing that. That's where I reckon that Jones can be that sort of player and play Doherty on the other back pocket.
Well, Plowman needs to play on the small to mid forward.
Yeah, he'd be like Adam Tomlinson.
That's his thing.
Yeah, Adam Tomlinson.
I think
exactly like him. Play him like he
right now is that from this week we're probably going to get Nick Newman back, so that just adds another layer of complexity into that midfield debate. That backline debate in terms of where everyone fits. Because Newman will play in the 22 and fit. I think we all know that. So that means if we decide to move Zach Williams back, that means we got to move Doherty or Sard up the field. We can't have too many. I'd move
Doherty, Doc straight up the field into the guts, mate. I've always seen Doherty as a midfielder. His leadership, and the pressure, I think, would be taken off Cripps if he comes into the even on the wing. I mean, he's kicking into our 50, mate. Mate, Harry would just love seeing Doc lace up straight onto his chest, mate. That's what I think we are lacking from our wing positions, is that kick into our 50s always. I sometimes close my eyes, boys, when I see that ball coming, because if Harry's not there, I'm thinking, here we go. Who's gonna be the one that's gonna attack the ball? To be honest.
to be honest.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, boys, I'm going to have to get going because I've got this auction to do. But if you want the hard word, Johnny, as you put up on the screen there.
Just before, go on. Give us the hard word,
if
mate.
If we play to our capacity,
Yes.
and Melbourne's about 10% off their top their top performance, well then I think we've got a chance of causing the upset. But it's a big call. I've heard lots of people contemplate us beating Melbourne this week, and eventually they're going to have to lose one, aren't they? I mean, they're not going to go the whole season undefeated. But I'm just not sure that we're the team that's going to do it. So my prediction is Melbourne by 5 goals.
Yeah.
All right,
I
no worries.
got it right last week when I said the Doggies by 4 goals, and I think they won by 3.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, everyone. That's the hard word. And look what a superstar Vince is as well. Look at these comments. Good morning, Vincenzo from Rocco. Buongiorno, Vince from
Buongiorno.
Giuseppe.
I mean, it's once again we've become the Viva l'Italiano show.
The rock star.
But anyway, this is Carlton. So
That's
and as Rodney Roode says, and it relates to me, I may not be a wog, but I look like one. So
very good.
So, anyway, Vince, always a pleasure having you on, mate. You're a rock
Thanks,
star.
Johnny.
Enjoy your auction. Have a great day, and we'll chat again next week and during the week.
Catch you around,
Thanks,
guys.
mate. Thanks, Riley. See you, boys.
See you around,
Thanks,
Vinny. See you around, brother.
See you, mate. All right, now we've got Nick. He wants to jump on. Is he? No. Nick, are you there? What's going on, Nick?
I've got one quick question, though, boys.
No.
In this mid-season draft, should we look at a ruckman?
Oh, you talking Aaron Sandilands, brother?
Oh, no. We're not St Kilda or all them ones that go with age. No. I'm thinking there's a young, he's about 28. His name is Swans had him on the mid-season draft a few years ago. Was it Mark Knowles or Martin Knowles?
Michael Knowles.
Should we give someone, maybe if not Knowles, a ruckman, a 6-month contract just for the end of the year, or I just still feel that Pito's. I heard that Pito's nickname is Brad. Is that true? Has Brad Pito? That's what I heard.
No, I haven't heard that one personally.
Yeah, some guys call him Brad, but yeah. Back to this question: do you think we should have a look at a ruckman maybe just for the 6 months? The 4 or 5, or just the end of this year? What do you guys think? Like, I think we're just a bit short on our ruckman stocks, if you know what I mean. Like,
okay, so
I just think Casboult's not doing. Yeah.
Do you think we missed a trick by not picking up young Josh Cripps,
Sam Walsh's brother,
development as a not Josh Cripps, that's another year or two away. Sam Walsh's brother,
yes,
as a young developing ruckman that he's playing against men already, but he's still going through the system. He's probably not quite ready, but just give it a year, and he might show enough form that if we're desperate, we could play him in there, give him a crack, and develop him. Like we don't have any developing ruckman, and a lot of clubs don't do that anymore. They don't develop ruckman. They recruit them in more mature ages. So I don't know. I think we could possibly have missed a trick there. And it didn't necessarily have to be the young Walsh brother. It could have been someone else. I mean, look, that young, is it Jones for Essendon? Western Bulldogs have one. There's a few other clubs that have drafted very young ruckmen, and that they're giving them a crack, and they're going all right.
Absolutely. There's like that one, Riley up in Brizzy. He plays for the Redland Bombers, I think. His name's Hamilmans, I think. I don't know if he's still up there. He used to be on the Lions list. That guy's kicking goals as well.
Hamilman's more he's currently playing for Aspley. He's more of a
Aspley Lions,
of a key forward.
Okay.
Key forward type. If you're looking at ruckman, Noel is an option, but he's a known quantity, and he's at the age where he's not in the development. He's just probably would be seen by more as a stopgap. He had opportunities at Sydney. I think he can play. But if you want to look at potentially development ruckman, I mean, you've got from the WAFL, you've got Corey Galt is one that you could potentially look at. If you want to look at the VFL, and this is a name that that's been in the news recently up here because he's sort of turned his life around. Well, not turned his life around. So it's the wrong way to put it, but he's played good form. He got into some controversy a couple of years ago, but he was going to be one of the Suns' next big things, and that's Braden Crossley.
Yes, he's the one who got into trouble up here, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. It was an inadvertent doping violation, which we've seen before, but he's back and he's playing a lot of that forward ruck sort of style. So that's why he's only 21. So he's younger than all of us. So that's one that you could potentially look at. He does want another crack at AFL level, and he's got ability. So that's one. If you wanted to take someone and take a chance on them, you potentially pick up is him. In terms of mid-season draft, I think personally ruck is an option because if we sort of seen the shortcomings of Pitnet whilst TDK's been down and TDK's he's still young. He's
of course he is.
I think we need to look for outside mids personally. If there's any outside mids screening at the moment, because we got so many of the inside mids, and
when you got O'Brien not being able to cut it, and you're trying to make Will Setterfield a wingman, that does tell you've got deficiencies in the outside mid area.
Teague admitted as much last week. I mean, in the press conference, we've got too many inside mids, so we're trying to rotate them through the midfield and forward. So that's one you have to look at, and it has to be a pressure mid. There's some really concerning stats at the moment with Carlton. Leppich really brought it up last week. It's really well. It was all surrounding defensive transition. And basically the stat was we're at the moment we're fifth for scores from defensive transition. So when we turn it over in D50, basically go down the ground, we're last in the competition for conceding. So there's no pressure up the field right at the moment from the forward line and the midfield to stop that. And that partly comes down to team defense, which we've discussed 1,000 times. It's also
commentators say it every week, don't they?
Yeah, they
just walking it out of our defence, and that's exactly what they just walk it out of our defence, and it looks like a training drill.
And that is why,
absolutely, mate, champ.
That is why it is not the worst option. And they're probably going to say he's not ready, but he's played against men. Why don't you, if you want pressure forwards, why wouldn't you reward someone like a Corey Durden? He laid 8 tackles last week in the VFL. He hunts the footy. He hunts the man. We have to get some genuine tackling intent back in the Carlton. That was one thing. That was one thing last night. It's been true about AFL football for 150 years. If you can hunt the man and tackle the man consistently, you can make sides shit themselves. It happened to us last week when the Dogs put us under pressure. And even though they lost last night, and it was because of bad kicking, the Saints around the ground dominated Geelong for a lot of the game. They laid 85 tackles last night. They just hunted them.
Mate.
In the first half, they made Geelong look like a shell of themselves. Richmond's won 3 premierships on prep, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
Righto, guys. I think we've pretty much spent 40 minutes analysing, critiquing, focusing on last week's game and what we need to do to turn things around, what changes need to be made. It's been some awesome objectivity in all of that. What I want to do now is just have a quick chat about the seconds. So so we're getting into the solution stage of our chat today, right? So who's for this week at least, who's ready to step in? Setter's had a productive game. Dow had a pretty productive game on the ball. TDK improved again and looks like his athleticism's there. He might, I don't know, he might have to play limited minutes in the AFL if he came back in this week. But to me, he seems ready. Honey, the stats don't suggest it, and he isn't an impact pressure player. Is he ready for AFL? Is he a better option than Gibbo and some others at the moment? Is he still better to bring in? Who comes out? Who comes in? Let's make it pretty quick, and then I'll move on to the injury list. Who comes out? Who comes in? I'll start with you, Ali.
Yeah. I still believe, look, I would put Cripps centre half forward, because Jay Sauce is injured, and I would bring Setters straight in the guts. We're all saying, like, he's an inside mid. Let's just give him a go, mate. I would say bringing in TDK definitely for Levi. I wouldn't do too many changes though, guys. It will just look unbalanced the side, but I say Dow's got to come in for either Betts or Owies. I really love Owies. I really love him. I really rate that kid. That passion against the Bombers, that bit of a nudge, I think it was against Wrigley that's what I think we lacked last week. That's a bit of to the edge, but I wouldn't go more past than those three players, to be honest. I think too many out against a side like Melbourne that's just, 8 and zip. You don't want to make too many rash decisions. But that's just my opinion, boys. That's just my opinion. No,
you're right. It could get ugly. Too many changes, very disruptive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm looking further ahead too. If it was teams like Hawthorn or Roos, I still rate them a little bit, but that's where I would say I'll bring a Josh Honey in or bring a Durden in maybe, but against a side that's 8 and zip, that's a bit of, to me, I don't know, a bit of disrespect to D's, mate. They're flying, mate. Honestly, they are flying, mate. They are flying. They taught Richmond a lesson. They taught everyone a lesson, and if we just give them that bit of edge, what the Doggies didn't do to us last week, guys, this week could be a bloodbath, mate. Put it that way, mate,
Okay, we'll move on to Riley. Before we move on to Riley, we got Dom Pang. Dom Pang lives in Japan. Dom, I've just put the link up, mate. We'd love to hear from you. That'd be awesome. So, Riley, who goes out? Who replaces him?
Is it who I want or who I think?
Give me your Riley's respectable list of who you want in and out, and who you think will come in and come out.
Okay, so I think Nick Newman's a certainty to come in, and he's one that I'd want in. I just mentioned Corey Durden or Josh Honey. I think one of those would be really good to come in for that forward pressure that I've mentioned. I think Mark Murphy will come in. I just can't see him playing reserves. But I think if Murph comes in, it might be time to. I know they're playing him at half forward, but maybe you've got to give him some spurts in the midfield. And I'd love TDK in. TDK, I think, needs to come in for Casbolt. Now, what I think will happen, I think Nick Newman will come in. I think Mark Murphy will come in. I don't think TDK is going to come in. I cannot see them putting TDK one out against Max Gawn first game for the year. And I can't see them dropping Casbolt. I just can't. Forward structure, replacement ruck, whatever you want to call it. I just can't see it. Coming out of the side, I think Liam Stocker is going to come out. If they're not going to play him as a midfielder and you've got Newman waiting in the wings,
that'd kill me. If they don't play Liam Stocker on a half-forward flank and give him midfield minutes, then they may as well play him in the twos. And if that's the case, it's a fucking disgrace. I'm sorry.
Just remember, Richmond.
Just
remember, Richmond wanted him in that draft. Richmond wanted him in that draft. This is a thing that I'm scared about. Like, we're not playing a bit of the young players, whereas Obi could go to another club and give us a touch-up. Dow could go to another club because his brother's at Richmond and give us a touch-up. This is what I'm worried about, us playing too many. And, look, don't get me wrong, being greats, legends of our clubs. And, I'm just scared because Richmond, I think, are going to be on the hunt for a few second-rate midfielders, up forward types. And that's the place that players want to go to at the moment, mate. That's what I find. I don't know. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I
agree. I think, and in terms of the other, I think Gibbons might be one that's looked at that goes out. He's probably one I would make a replacement for.
Yes.
My concern this week, and it used to actually be, we used to have these key position stocks. How the hell are we going to defend Ben Brown, Sam Wiedemann, Tom McDonald? I've got no idea at all.
I do. Sardan Williams on a half-back flank, Jacob Wiedering at full-back, Liam Jones as a third tall, intercepting everything left, right and centre, Levi Casbold at centre half-back, Luscious Lochisano. He said it all, mate. It's that actually makes sense against that forward line.
Yes,
it does. But no, if you had to, I think Murphy,
maybe not Fatzak.
Murphy, Newman, and there's someone's got to replace. The one we're forgetting is Jack Silvani's injured, obviously, so he's coming out of the side. So then you probably, it could be a Durden, it could be a Honey if they want to go down that route, or they bring in TDK and do what you said in terms of the defensive setup. I don't think that's what will happen. So
no.
I think, but coming out of the side, I can see them dropping Stocker. I can see Gibbons possibly, and this one would hurt, and if they do it, I'm not going to be happy about it. I could see them moving Luke Parks back to the twos, simply because he doesn't have the matchup for a tall.
Yeah.
If they bring him out, then you could think maybe a Tom Williamson from last week and he has to play third tall. It's a conundrum with us. I've got no idea what we'll do.
How about Parks go centre half forward? Wouldn't that just throw everything in the spanners, mate? He's a great kick. Yeah. He can kick. He's a beautiful.
Ali, that's what good coaches do. That's what good coaches do. So they surprise people. They put some insightful thoughtfulness into looking at the talents of players, and they do it in grand finals a lot. Good coaches,
absolutely. That's what I love about
Robert
Dimmer.
Walls did Robert Walls did in '87, playing the hyphen on Dermy. In '95? In '95, what Parko did, Glenn Manton at full forward.
First goal kicker.
This is what.
That's right.
Lateral thinkers,
right.
not X's and O's.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A coach needs to have that power to say to his assistants, no, we're going to do this. Oh, but no, Teagues, we got to stick to our structure. We got to blah, blah, blah. No, we've got to win this game. And this
Absolutely.
We're going to, if it fails, I'll fall on my fucking sword.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
I'm the head coach, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm not necessarily saying Parks to centre half forward, but I'm just saying, that's the right thinking. That's we've got talented players. We've got to start thinking laterally. My opinion. Okay, Ali, it's been fantastic having you on.
Thank you very much, guys.
I'm going to jump you off.
Yes, absolutely.
Got you on, and we could hear you. It was awesome. Jump on again next week. Be great to hear from you again.
Every week,
awesome,
boys.
Man.
Every week, mate. I follow you boys from up here on the Gold Coast, mate. I'm going to take my kids. We've got 5 kids here, mate. Take them to the beach now. Go and kick the ball on the sand, mate.
In Riley's backyard in a granny flat or something, eh? What's going on there?
No, this is how it got right. We just bought a house up here on the Gold Coast, and we've got my pool table and a lot of my memorabilia. I'm about to start up soon. So, yeah, but we follow you boys all the time, mate. Always watch Blues Abroad. Doesn't matter if it's your show or Terry's show. We love it, mate. We love it. We love it. We love it.
Thanks, Ali.
Don't forget the great guys as well. But Ali, great to have you on.
Mate, go the Blues. And, by the way, Carlton by 11 points. I still believe the Blues, mate. I still believe the Blues.
Prediction. All right. Good
All
on
right,
you,
guys.
Ali. Appreciate that.
Have a good day, guys. God bless. God
Have a
bless,
great
guys.
one,
God
Ali.
bless.
You're a legend. Thanks,
Catch you,
mate.
mate. Cheers.
Thanks, mate.
All right.
He's
Now, we're
such a
going to
good
bring
guy.
on Dom's jumped in the queue. So we're going to bring in Dom. And Riley, I'm going to give you a bit of me time with Dom, talk about life in Japan, because I'm going to go out of the studio and try and call Earl. I think he might be a bit dusty this morning or something. Who knows? He hasn't jumped on yet. So I'm going to find out where he is. So I shall just bring Dom in. Good morning, Dom. How you going, mate?
Morning, fellas. How are you?
Not too bad. I'm going to disappear for a tick. I'll be right back.
Gee,
Dom,
there's
mate.
lots of discussion about this week's team. Tell you what, good thing about being a fan is that we can have opinions, and it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't disagree. It's a very interesting conversation to have about the team this week, and I think it just shows that we still have a lot of instability from a fan's opinion. Team stability under Teague has been pretty much the same, but I think that could start to change, and it's just there's a lot of stuff at the moment from my perspective. I'd love to hear your perspective. That's concerning in the way we play and currently the way we structure up.
Yeah, well, it's the artwork is incomplete. We know that we have deficiencies in the midfield. It's funny, like we haven't been blown away in any game. So if we can improve our midfield, I think, a lot of people have been saying, like we're done, we're a sham and so on. But I think that's a bit extreme. I think that we're closer than, it seems. Certainly what the media is saying. I think, if we can fix our midfield and we can fix some of our defensive deficiencies, like how easily the ball is going into our defense, we're going to win more games. So, a little bit more maturity. The other thing about David Teague is, he's still a very young coach. So, I want him to do better. I want him to be making more active decisions, like there was that footage of Beveridge and Teague and, comparing the two. And, Beveridge is like on the boundary line and, he's barking orders to, his players, and Teague is just sitting there. But we don't really know, what setup he has in place in terms of the flow of his decision making. So he's 32 games in as a coach. Perhaps, with a little bit more maturity, like that's going to work better. There was one thing that you guys were talking about in terms of selections this week, and I was watching Bucky's match preview last night, and he was talking about the fact that the D's have such a big forward line. What have they got? They've got McDonald, they've got Wiedemann and Ben Brown. I agree with John. I think the best way to use Levi is to throw him down back. So I'd be putting Wieders on McDonald, Levi on Ben Brown. Levi's got the pace and also like the lower ground mobility to cover Brown. And then I think Jones is a really good matchup for for Wiedemann, sorry. And that would allow for TDK to come in and then have Levi pinch in the ruck with Parks and rotating on Wiedemann. To me, that's like the best solution. I think you might be right about Stocker. With Newman coming in for Stocker, even though I don't want that to happen. The selection panel have shown that, like they're pretty, they don't have much patience with our younger players, which I don't think is the right approach. We need to be pushing these guys through. And then, probably Honey or Kennedy for JSOS. Anyway, I just wanted to get in there with my thoughts on the team for this week.
It is very interesting. It's a good point on Kennedy. I think he's one that could potentially play that forward role. I think what's important, and David Teague said before, we want to be defined by contest and pressure. Well, you look at the way, like our tackle stats and the way sides transition the footy against us at the moment, that's not being defined by pressure right now. We've got players playing that aren't necessarily, putting that pressure on that we need. If you look in the forward line, I haven't checked the stats in the last couple of weeks, but I think up to round 6, the bloke that laid the most forward 50 tackles for Carlton was Harry Mackay, which is disgraceful. He's 6'9". You cannot expect a guy like Harry Mackay to make the most forward half tackles for Carlton. It's why I think it's important we get a Durden in. It's important why potentially you think about a Honey, and I think another one that could be under pressure is Michael Gibbons. He's currently not. They're not playing him as a midfielder. He's a bit in between at the moment. He's not getting that much of the footy, and what he's doing with the footy hasn't been very good in the last few weeks. And he isn't putting that defensive pressure on we need.
Just quickly, I'm going to let Dom go in a minute. I've got the great man waiting in the queue, but I just want to touch on that. So we're talking about bringing Kennedy in, being defined by pressure. To define yourself by pressure and to make those tackles and you see what the other good teams are, they still got pace. So, Kennedy, he's a big body and all of that, but is he a guy like Walsh that's going to be able to tackle, ball spills up, get up, tackle again, boom, boom, boom? He's proven slow. And that doesn't create pressure. You still got to have pace. You got to have that tenacity. But in the modern game, you got to be fast. You got to be able to chase and tackle again and get up and do it again and again and again. That's what I don't see with Kennedy. That's why I like the Honeys and Durdens. Their stats aren't huge, but they will create that pressure in the forward line. So anyway, we'll see how the selections go. Dom. Sorry I had to cut you off a bit short, mate. Thanks for jumping in all the way from Japan. Come on again next week if you're available, mate, because I want to go through a little bit of life in Osaka over there with you and what it's like, how you watch the footy and everything else. But it's been great having you jump on, mate. Really appreciate it.
Very passionately, mate.
No worries, mate. You're right.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, guys. Go Blues.
Go Blues.
All right. Okie doke. So, that's Dom Panger. We got the great man. G'day, El. How you going? Good morning. How are you?
Oh, okay, mate. Not bad. Just recovered from a bit of golf yesterday, so it's starts off slow Friday.
I was just saying on the stream, I had to jump off, and I was just saying I'll have to go and find out what's going on with Earl. I had him on the radio show last year, and he was a bit late as well, and he admitted he was a little bit dusty. So, I was just to see what's going on there. But no, you're looking good, mate. You don't look dusty. That's good.
It's amazing what a bit of cold water does to your face. Yeah.
Exactly right.
Indeed. Now, mate, just thanks very much for coming on, and we wanted to get you on. Obviously, Carlton playing Melbourne this week, and you've got your history where you started your career at Melbourne and then came over to the Blues in '91 when Parko brought you over. Can you just give us a bit of an insight on that, like what led you to there? We know you started at Wesley, played 60-odd games for Perth, and then came over to Melbourne and the Blues. What was your journey like?
It was pre-draft, so you didn't have to sit around a room and wait for your name to get called out. So that'd be a bit nerve-wracking for the young blokes these days. So I was the last of the Form 4s, and West Coast was starting up that year too. So they were in the mix, and they put a big group together, a big squad together out of the waffle. So I was sort of I was invited to get to a few functions there, but when contracts started getting mentioned, the dollars weren't huge, and not that it was about money necessarily, but I think money sort of determines how much they value you as a person as well. So certainly Melbourne's offer was a lot more substantial than West Coast. So it wasn't an easy decision to uproot and leave, even though I was 21 at the time. But I'm sort of glad I did. It was a great adventure for 11 years living in Melbourne. 5 at Melbourne and 6 obviously at Carlton, and having that ultimate success in '95 with the Blues after a couple of near misses. So it was fantastic. And like you look at the guys who stayed and played the whole career at West Coast, and you look over the fence and the grass is pretty green there too, but you can't have everything. And I enjoy every minute I had over there.
All right, over to you, Riley.
Earl, firstly, great to chat to you. It's always great to speak to people like yourself who, for me, as a fan, I wasn't alive in 95, so I'd love to hear the stories and I love to...
You're still in the old ball bag, were you, Riley, back then, mate? I didn't realise you were that young.
Born in 97, but that's neither here nor there. I guess for me, every time I get to speak to someone from that 95 team, I just love to hear the story and like the atmosphere around the side. You mentioned a couple of near misses, 93, 94, and I think 95, it all came together really well. And from what I've read, a lot of it was player-led, and the relationship with David Parkin sort of changed a little bit in the way you guys went about it. Firstly, from your perspective, what was David like as a coach and a mentor? And also that 95 side, why do you think it came together so well like it did?
I think, there's a lot said about player-driven, but I think we got some key personnel in that year. One was a kid fresh out of the draft in Scott Camporelli, just the pace he brought and the excitement. Matt Clapper, of course, coming across from Perth. Dean Rice had been at the club for 18 months, I think, but hurt his knee in his first or second game. And so he was fit and firing for the first time. We missed, in 93, I'm pretty sure we missed Deanie, and in 94, Braddles didn't play in those final series and we went out in straight sets. So we're healthy as well. Yeah. And it all sort of came together, really. Confidence was a big thing. We got out in straight sets. So that first final against Brisbane, we were really shaky. And they were a good side, and we only just got over the line. So that gave us enormous confidence after that to go on. So you need a lot of things going right for you to win flags at any level. So we just it was our year. Like, it was almost destined to be. And in terms of Parko, I can only really comment on. I only had 2 coaches in 11 years, and John Northey was at Melbourne, and John was great with a young group to get us together. But David sort of gave me a lot of confidence, backed me in a few times when others probably wouldn't have. And you certainly, and I've learned a lot from that in my coaching to give guys confidence when they're not going well, and to make sure you get round them more when they're not going well than you do when they are. So, he was pretty important in that regard.
So your role, especially once Brad Pearce was brought into the squad, and then even guys like Adrian Whitehead and that running around there, your role to support Sticks was really to crash the packs market if you could, but bring the ball to ground and let those guys do their work as well. And sort of maybe took a bit of gloss over your talents and abilities. Maybe became labelled as a bit of an enforcer, which you were, and we loved watching it. It was fantastic. So how did that role suit you? Your kicking improved over the years as well, and your set shot kicking and stuff like that. So did you still want to be able to take those clangers and clunk those marks and kick those goals yourself, or were you really just very much role focused?
No, I think the biggest thing for me was I'd had a wrist injury all through 93, so I basically played with a broken scaphoid all year, and then into 94 I had an op, and I missed the first 6 weeks, so I was never really fit, as fit as I should have been, really. So 95 was the year I basically got fit, and probably the penny finally dropped in terms of defensive pressure. I heard you talking about it before with about Matty Kennedy and the defensive pressure he can bring but not sustain. So I think our forward line sort of that year with Ricey and Matt, as a half forward line, we could win the ball ourselves, but the biggest thing was keeping the ball in our forward half for those other guys you mentioned, to give them a second opportunity at it, with Sticks and Pearce. He was one I forgot too. And obviously in the grand final, Diesel sneaking down there and kicking a lazy 5. So I think that was, in terms of what we couldn't do in 94, our pressure right across the ground, especially our forward pressure, lifted a lot.
Yeah, awesome, Riley.
I wanted to ask you how you currently see Carlton. Now, you coach of Perth in the WAFL from 2015, culminated in a final series last year, which I think it was the first time this century Perth's made the finals in the Waffle.
It's the first time for 20 something years,
yeah. So, and from what I read, it was a lot of regeneration of younger sort of players to make that sort of happen. Carlton has done the same thing. I think we're in year 6 of what was termed as the rebuild. How have you seen our progression as a football club since then, when we tried to regenerate? And these younger players that we've brought in are starting to come of age, but not necessarily produce the way a lot of us hope. Your Lockie O'Briens, your Paddy Dow types probably haven't come on as much as Carlton fans have hoped.
Yeah, and they're really important picks. Like you're talking pick. What was Paddy Dow 4 or 5? Was
it was pick 3.
3, yeah. And that's a massive pick, and to sort of get that wrong, that hurts you for years. And I think Sam Petreski-Seaton's going to be a reasonable player, but he's a pick 5 or 6 too. They're big picks. They're guys that you build your club around. So to miss out there and sort of almost back to back, it really hurts you. I mean, the picks before, you look at the talls, and Mackay's been fantastic this year. The good Kerno, we're certainly missing Charlie. He's a once in a generation player, and who knows if he's going to play again. So that's a massive out. But I don't like to watch a lot of footy shows because they tend to take a small sample and make a big story out of it. But one thing I saw on the couch last week was a couple of incidences of poor defence, team defence by I think Liam Jones was one, and Sam Doherty was the other, and they're experienced players, and they're sort of almost having a crack at the coaches. But I'm going, that's not the coach's fault. The coach would be telling them that's basic stuff. If you can't swivel your head and see what's behind you, so if they can't get that right, and they're 2 of your better players defensively, you can't win. So they have to get that right, and if they get that right,
now
they're on track to be a better side. But that's consistency as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's what we're. Geez, talk about consistency. That's what frustrates the supporters. I was talking to Riley about it before the show, that I joke about it now at the beginning of every year. Another season of promise and hope for the Carlton Football Club and for us as supporters. We show so much, and then we don't deliver when we need to deliver. And so it's a consistency in the game. We've got to develop that and make sure we play out those 4 quarters, and then consistency week to week, routine, rehab, training. And it takes every single person in your club to be able to achieve that from the top down. Every player, every trainee, that commitment and dedication has to be there. Now, just quickly, I'll tell you what, there's some long memories here, Dookie, from Rocco, that smother and goal in 95 from Dom Payne. The Duke's smother and goal was the greatest moment of the 95 grand final. Very, very long memories. I certainly remember that one as well. It was a great moment. Riley will touch in a minute on it about the round 21 game in 95, and I was there at that game at Subiaco, of course, rated by Big Footy as the second best bump of all time on the wonderful player Guy McKenna. We'll go into that as well. Look, Duke, I want to just touch on. Just get away from the footy again. I love talking about this one. You were a fantastic sportsman. You had a burgeoning cricketing career there. You played 12 games for WA as a tearaway fast bowler. You averaged just a tick over 25. It took a couple of just ordinary scalps there. David Hooks, Aravinda de Silva, and one that people won't know that much, but I love just because I love the name, Siddharth Wedamoni. You're a pretty accomplished sportsman in your own right. And how was that for you? Was there a decision that you had to make, or were you always going to go into the footy field?
I always loved my footy. It was the old cricket summer, footy winter, and I changed clubs. I was playing at South Perth through being residentially bound to them in the juniors, and played a bit of thirds and fours with them for 2 years as a 17-year-old. But when I went to school, I met a few mates who lived in Lathlane and played down at Perth. So I just changed clubs to go down and have a hit with them, really. And went from thirds to first in 3 weeks. So I didn't think I was that good, but it sort of happened almost overnight. And next thing I was in the state squad. So I was still, by that stage, I'd played a season of waffle already. So footy was certainly taking front. So it got me out a bit of pre-season training cricket, which was handy. Because back then pre-season training was just running. It wasn't, the balls didn't come out till after Christmas. So I was always. I mean, I certainly enjoyed my cricket, but I remember when I'd signed to go east, I'd signed around probably late September, I reckon, early October, and so I was playing that 6 months of cricket, or not 6 months, 3 months, but half a season of cricket before I left. I didn't leave till January, so I couldn't get a wicket, and it was stinking hot. And every time you're down a fine leg, you'd be thinking of things you should be doing instead of being here playing cricket. So it wasn't a hard decision at the end of the day. And I sort of I regret a bit not having a go at Melbourne, but I was so keen to make sure that I got my footy right that I didn't want to take any focus off that. So. Yeah.
Yep, a couple of notables there as well from back in the day when people were doing that. Todd Breman was a good one, beauty of a cricket player and good footballer for the Eagles. Jamie Siddons, a lot of people wouldn't know, and he played 2 games for the Sydney Swans. I didn't know that. I had a bit of a research today and found out about that one. Of course, the great Craig Bradley was a fantastic batsman, played for South Australia and Victoria in Sheffield Shield, and most recently Alex Keith from the Adelaide Crows. So there you go. I can read. And
he caught me out in the second 11 game. We were 9 for playing at Richardson Park, and I couldn't bat to save myself, but I slogged this bloke over mid-off, and Braddles was feeling mid-on and ran around and caught it. I don't reckon anyone else would have got there, and he's taken it easily. So he reminded me of that a bit over the years.
Surprised he didn't catch it and then try to kick a banana from the boundary line, mate. How fantastic was he to watch when he was on fire, running down those. Even to his last game, he played a ripper. He could have gone on. He was fantastic. His longevity was a testament to his dedication and his health and everything else. What a fantastic player and person. Quick question for you from Dom Pang. We had him on earlier from Japan. Question for Earl. Modern day coaches seem to be more circumspect with their game day player communication. Do you think David Parkin's coaching style would still be relevant and be able to produce results in the modern game? Good question.
I think so. Look, he certainly wasn't one on tactics, Parker, and that was sort of pretty early on. I think that, it was in the infancy of having a zone for kick-ins back then. So. And Parker used to have the zone up on the board with your name on, which was fantastic. But if you changed, then who was going to play that role? So he didn't have it by position; he had it by name. But once again, I mean, he's a smart man, Parker. He would have adapted to whatever he needed to do. It is interesting seeing coaches down on the bench. I had to go at it once, and I understand why. But I was certainly a bit more comfortable back upstairs where you get a better view of everything and. The only reason you would is obviously the frustration around getting your message across the way you wanted to get it across. But it depends on a few things, how your team's going and how old your team is, really, I think.
Yeah. Righto. So now, how are Perth going? The mighty Perth Demons. I see they're 2-3, I think it is. They're sort of at the crossroads, a bit like the Blues at the moment. Need a win. How are they tracking? And how do you think they're going to go this week?
This week will go really well. We've got a bye today, hence hopefully you can't see the blurry eyes. We've been great. We had a really good win against East Fremantle down there, which is never easy to win down there. And then backed it up with a poor performance against Peel. So we've got a few injuries to key players at the moment. We're sort of limping through the next month, and hopefully you can we've got a tough month too, but try and pinch 1 or 2 wins out of that group of games, and then we start getting the cavalry back. So, we've got Fraser McInnes out at the moment. He's a huge, not only with his leadership, but obviously being able to play forward and help out in the ruck. He's a big out. And he got hurt in round
Fraser.
1. So,
Yep. No, he's a big out. Now, okay, so let's go to Sunday. What do we have to do? Who do you think we need to bring in? If you're willing to share that with us, who comes out, who comes in, and how do you think we can shape the game to maybe cause a bit of a ball over against your former team as well, the D's?
Yeah. Is Charlie available? Can we bring him in?
We all wish.
Well, I've just heard a rumour that Crispin Petrarca might be out. I'm just jumping on my phone now to see if that's true.
Okay.
That'd help.
I think personally you can argue all you like about who you can bring in and who's going to make a difference, but I think it's more about the system and the defence, especially, and being able to defend for the full game, because we'll create enough chances, I think. And Melbourne's game's all backed around their pressure at the moment, so being able to withstand that and still execute and not take too much off or bite too much off with your execution. But then when you get a good look, you got to make the most of it. So they're beatable. I mean, they're playing good footy, but the last 2 weeks they haven't been to the level they were before that. I don't think they've shown a couple of cracks and still managed to get over the line. So they're gettable. They just got to put it together for longer and have a bit of belief.
Yep. Now, Riley, you wanted to ask that question about the bone cruncher in round 21.95, mate.
The bone cruncher is, Johnny said, the second greatest bump according to Big Footy of all time. I guess, actually, to extend off that from the bump, that game and watching it back is probably one of the greatest games that isn't necessarily remembered by a lot of people. I mean, West Coast won 2 flags in the previous 3 years. We had to travel over there. You win by a point. Do you have much memories of that game? Obviously, the bump, but that game as a whole, and how much belief it could have given the group? You mentioned the Brisbane win in the finals was like, okay, we can sort of do this. But it must have been a pretty big win for the club to win over there in those circumstances against that side.
Yeah, we had a group of 3 games, which was Essendon, North, and West Coast. Not in that order, but we played them early in the season. I think it might have been North, West Coast, Essendon in that order. So there are 3 really big games in a row, and we're in the middle of that sequence again to finish the season off. The last game we had Essendon. So even though we were guaranteed top spot at that stage, it was really important. The whole group recognised it. To have good results in those games. I mean, winning is obviously what you want to do, but
yeah. Have we just lost some sound?
we made that poor turn that resulted in their goal. So that was always probably a big part of the game. But it was coming out of the game was hot too. It was the guys really struggled that day with the heat, and to get out with the 4 points, and it was a huge part of that season.
Absolutely. And a lot of people have mentioned the smother from the 95 grand final. From that game, do you sort of, when you're in that environment and you're on top so much, did you have a chance, I guess, to enjoy it in the last quarter and a half when we're up by over 10 goals, or was there always that thing in the back of your mind to keep pushing, or were you able to experience the moment that not many people get to play in an AFL grand final and win one, and I guess even less get to play in one that's very convincing in the end?
Yeah. Well, we're probably the last half of the last quarter. I think we got to 80 points up at one stage. They kicked the last 4 goals, I think, so that brought it back to a bit of respectability from their point of view. So probably that early part and everything we touched in that early part of the last quarter just came off. It was a bit of a training run, really. So by then we sort of realised, we're not going to lose, but you don't really switch off. You're trying to concentrate and make sure you still do everything right. So when the final siren, when it was a lot of relief probably for a fair bit of the group, because we're under a fair bit of pressure after the previous 2 years, especially '94. Then the games began for a couple of days.
Yeah.
All right, we just about got to call it a day there, but mate, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Geez, I wouldn't have asked you to come on this week if I knew it was the bye. Of course, you're going to be dusty. But I'll let you go back to your beauty sleep now. And thanks for all your objective insights. It's been good fun as well. And Duke, Snake, golf ball, whatever we want to call you, thanks for 95, mate, and for all the great memories. You're a legend.
No worries, thanks, guys. Have a good day. Enjoy tomorrow too.
Thanks, mate. You too. Go the Blues.
Go Blues.
See ya.
All right, there we go, Riley. What an absolute legend.
What a guy.
Did you hear the country and western music come on?
No, I didn't. It was that I lost sound during as he started to go into that game, and I'm like, damn it. From my end, but no, that was fantastic, and it's always I think from my perspective, I guess anyone in this sort of perspective, you feel really privileged to talk to any people that's been around footy and AFL level. I mean, at the end of the day, they're just human beings, but especially from that area, for me, it's just so insightful to
Look,
get some understanding of what it was like.
They offer what we need. They offer the insights in what it takes to get better, to be better, to commit, to dedicate, what it takes as a collective in a club to be successful. And that's what I find when you talk to the past players from successful eras. They can provide that. And he's wonderful to talk to. So it was awesome. I'd love to get Parko on here. I've interviewed Parko a couple of times. So thankful and privileged to have done that. I don't think he would do this. I'm not even going to ask him. Otherwise, he might block my phone number. He's another one. He's just, you just 10, 15 minutes is never enough. You want it to last all day almost. So you just talk about and just listen to him all day. He's amazing. So, mate, it's been a great show. We've had guys on from Thailand, Japan, a couple of the local lads, one from Queensland and Vincenzo from Victoria, all with fantastic thoughts on how we went last week, how we're going to go this week. It's time for to finish off with maybe Riley's rant coupled with a prediction. So I'll let you get into that, mate.
Okay, I touched on it earlier in the show. A little bit, and I was waiting to exacerbate on this. The definition of trust is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. There are clubs in the AFL you can trust, I think, even if they don't go all the way on and off the field. You can trust. You can obviously trust Richmond on field generally. They've been wobbly last couple of weeks, but they've won 3 of the last 4 flags. You can trust Port Adelaide and their organisation on and off field. There is no murky lines. It's very black and white, prison bar, whatever you want to call it. You can trust them. You can trust Brisbane. Geelong is one you can trust for a long time. Geelong's been one you can trust for a long time. I don't know, you hate this mob, but generally speaking, you can trust the West Coast Eagles with what they're generally going to deliver. Now, obviously, there's certain games where week to week it doesn't work as well. Unfortunately, right now with Carlton, for me, that trust isn't there as a fan. Whether you look on field and the consistency in game, quarter to quarter, sections of quarters, even line groups, that trust isn't there. You probably, they don't have maybe full trust in each other. We don't know the inner sanctum, but I'm sure the defenders, if you went deep dive, they're probably thinking, shit, we're going to be getting another 60 inside 50s this week to defend. That's tiring. I think the forward line probably think we're not getting enough supply. I can't trust them to give us enough supply. It's working right now as a forward line. We only had 44 inside 50s last week, which you're not going to win many games from. Even if you look off field, you don't really, I don't know if you can trust it. Everyone's talked about how shady Carlton's been with injuries in the past. And they came to the fore again this week with Patrick Cripps, a report saying basically he's getting back, he's had back fractures and he's getting shots every week. Then Teague comes out and says he's fine and he didn't know the extent of the injury. And that could be a deflection. But for me, I don't have full trust in the club right now. That can just be a personal thing. But I think to be a good, consistent organisation, you need to have trust from the fan base. I don't think I'd necessarily be alone in trusting the performance, not trusting the performance that we're going to potentially dish up. We always say we don't know what Carlton are going to dish up within, week to week. We know probably in the first 5 to 10 minutes what sort of, if we're going to be competitive or not, or if we're going to, we're not in the game. We've seen that this year. We saw it against Port and we saw it against Collingwood. We knew very early on it wasn't going to go our way. I love this club. I love this club to death. Everyone knows that about me. You can disagree with what I say. That everyone's right. A lot of people probably do. But you can't question my passion. I think we are at a very serious crossroads as a football club right now, on field. We talk about development. We talk about, system. There's a big portion. There's a big couple of weeks coming up. We said that a few weeks ago when we were heading into Port Adelaide, Brisbane. This is a massive couple of weeks. Tomorrow almost feels like a last stand for the club in terms of, we talk about the season and prospects. 3 and 5, if we go down tomorrow, we would need to win, I think, to make finals 13 games. We've won 3. So that means we've got to win, basically go 3-1. 3 wins, 1 loss. So 10 and 3 to make 13 and 9. We haven't won over 3 games in 5 years. That's going to be considered another failure if we miss out on finals. So tomorrow is huge. Do I hope we can do it? Of course. Do I think we have the capability to do it? Yes, I do, because we've shown it. We showed it against the Dogs last week when we got the game on our terms. Do I trust us? No. I don't trust us. In terms of, you said that leads into a prediction. Prove me wrong, Carlton. Prove me wrong. I think Melbourne win by 33 is what my head's saying. My heart says we win, and in every tipping comp, I refuse to tip against Carlton. I just can't. But my head says Melbourne by 33. Prove us wrong. I
think you should tip against Carlton this week because Murphy's Law will get a win, Riley.
Yeah. I bloody hope so. Just restore the trust, and not just in me, but the fan base. Restore the trust that, at least, and it's probably a trust we haven't had for a long time.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree wholeheartedly with all of those sentiments. It's you can't argue with it. I think, we're a chance. Of course we're a chance. Everyone's a chance every game, but we need to. And this is a trust factor again. Can we, when a side comes at us, whether it be in the last quarter, if we're starting to get a bit tired, or the coach decides, okay, we got to lift it up 2 gears halfway through the second quarter, send the message out to the players. This is what we're going to do. We're going to run forward, and we're going to run hard back. We're going to give it everything for 10 minutes here, and turn the tide back in our favour because Carlton's starting to get back. So when they get that run on and get on top, or try to get on top, can you trust us to repel that and not leak up to 5 goals or more?
Now, no.
That's what scares me. It's the one facet of our game that if we can figure out that magic potion to not leak when sides come at us, it's a weakness. It shows a real great weakness.
Yeah.
And look, I don't think there's like a lot of people saying, the players they've got no soul, they don't try, they just lay down, they're lazy. I don't think it's that. They're trying. Like no player's going to go out there and destroy their reputation by not trying. I don't think the players on big contracts have less motivation than the players on small contracts trying to make their way and make a name for themselves. There's other issues there, and they're bigger issues. It can't be that, because I know the players would not just deliberately do that. It's a lack of knowledge of what that is. There's so many things there that we would love to know, but there's no answers. So we don't know what it is, and that doesn't help with that trust factor. I mean, I fear we'll either lose in a very close game, and it'll be an honourable loss against a side that's undefeated, which would, to be honest, against Melbourne, if we put up a good performance and go down by a goal or two, you'd be wrapped in any other circumstance. But in the Carlton circumstance at the moment, it's just going to drive everyone insane again. I fear we're either going to lose like that, or we're going to get our first munting for the season. And I fear it's not the second one, but if it is a munting, there could be a positive to come out of that, and that's going to be necessary change. That's going to be
100%, and that's what leads into
these personnel will be looked at across the board: players,
100%.
assistant coaches, football department. It has to be. It has to be. So anyway. It is what it is, mate. We are Carlton. We're not going to stop loving our club, and we're going to will them on as best we can and hope for the best. So, mate, it's been a great show. Thanks for coming on. It's good to have you back. And are you commentating this week at all?
No, I got the weekend off actually. So that's
you've been pushed to the bench, in other words.
It's a weekend off. I wouldn't say pushed to the bench. It's nice. So I'll go just do the normal thing. Go to the shop. I'll try to get around to golfing at some stage, and then hopefully we win and I can go on fan cams on Sunday night, eating my words and being so happy about it. I'll make sure to bring out my cheese platter whilst I do it as well, in honour of Melbourne.
Yes, yeah. And didn't get time to go over the injuries, so I might just very quickly do that now before we go. It's funny, the injury list hasn't shortened now because of Silvani and stuff like that, but the weeks are getting shorter now to a lot more players coming back and improving, being able to make good decisions for the on-field stuff. So I'll just quickly bring those up. Okay, injuries. Let's go. Okay, so we'll start from the, obviously, Caleb Marchbank out for the season. Just on that, can we qualify for a mid-season hit? Yeah. Okay, so we'll see what happens there. Charlie Curnow, interesting, 5 to 6 weeks maybe. He's joined in the main group this week. We'll see how that goes. Oscar McDonald out for 8 to 10 weeks. I think he'll be off the list next year somehow. Mitch McGovern, 7 to 9 weeks. Zach Fisher, 4 to 5 weeks. So they're the longer, mid and longer term ones. Silvani, concussion, he'll be out this week. He'll be back next week. Jack Martin, 1 to 2 weeks. Brody Kemp, 1 to 2 weeks, the one we're all excited about. He'll have to bide his time in the VFL, though, so we can't get too excited yet. Sam Philp, 1 week. We need to get him in that VFL. We need speed, brother. We need speed. Yeah. So we got to get that Sam Philp, Jack Martin, those types. That's what we need. Mark Murphy, test for the neck. Probably a good chance of coming in this week against a side like Melbourne. So there we go with the injuries. Let's see what happens with the selections, and let's see how we go Sunday. I'm crossing everything. It could be a season-defining win if we can get over the D's. They are due for a loss.
I think it's, mate, either way, it's season-defining. Either way.
Big time. All right, mate. Thanks again. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game Sunday, and I'll catch up with you during the week.
All right, cheers, mate. Go Blues.